Good morning, all, and happy Easter. We rejoice that we can proclaim this morning, He is risen, and we rejoice that we can respond, He is risen indeed. Alleluia. As we come together for this Easter morning, we take our reading from Matthew's Gospel, the account of the resurrection. After the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." While the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests everything that had happened. I can remember quite a few years ago now in my childhood, Saturday nights, and watching Paul Daniels, the great magician. And one of the best of his magic tricks was with a cup and a ball. And I rewatched it the other day. And to the start, it seems like one of his worst. You can see his hands in his pockets. You can see where he is probably putting the balls and getting the balls from. But then right at the end, he lifts the cup and there is a lemon. And you can't imagine where the lemon has come from. And then he says, "If you think the lemon was impressive, you'll go nuts at the orange." And he lifts the cup and there is an orange underneath. And actually, you haven't seen his hands do anything. Magic tricks can leave you in awe. They leave you gobsmacked. But you know that there is trickery. But that's just magic, illusion. How about the story of Sam Sasser, a missionary who was blind, had coral poisoning, was in a wheelchair, yet was miraculously healed and had to cancel his appointment to learn how to use a guide dog. Susan Spey, a technology teacher in Wetherby, who went to a prayer meeting and came away healed completely. Or Pamela Reddy, or the so many people whose stories of healing are pure miracles. There is no magic. Miraculous. And then on this Easter day, we see the greatest of miracles. This man, Jesus, the man that history tells us caused a bit of a stir, the man that history tells us died on a cross because of what he had done and said. And then we do not just hear from his friends of his resurrection. The guards went into the city and told of all that had happened. We see the historical accounts of Jesus' resurrection. The miraculous, the wonderful. This is no magic. And yet we are in awe of the wonder of the resurrection. A miracle beyond miracles. There is a hashtag going around the internet at the moment: Easter changed my life. And when I hear some of the stories, I would love to say that my story resonates with them. A vibrant, dramatic, wonderful change. And I imagine the likes of Paul, who was Saul, and his Damascus Road conversion, and then some of the disciples who saw the miraculous every day, for whom the miraculous became normal. I can remember going to Beamish and seeing the slate in the school and being able to write on the slate and wipe the slate clean. And that is what Easter is about, our slate wiped clean, a fresh start. But actually, when I looked at that slate, you can still see the marks. You can see the history of what was written. There is still evidence. And sometimes I feel, when I think about how Easter has changed my life, that that's the same for me. Some of the stories of their past completely erased. And yet sometimes I can see my past. But the evidence of the resurrection goes far beyond the four Gospels. It goes beyond Paul's letters. The evidence of the resurrection goes into the healings of Sam and Susan and Pamela and all the other healings that have taken place over the centuries. And even though I can see my past, the way that Easter has changed my life is that the evidence comes into my life day by day. The power of the resurrection is not an Easter Day thing for me. It is an everyday thing. The other day I was in the garden, and there are some plants that you can uproot very easily. Some vibrant, lovely, wonderful plants, and yet actually they come out of the ground very easily. Similarly, there are roots to every plant, and there are weeds, and some weeds are intricate, and you look at the weed and you think it looks strong and healthy, and you grasp it and it just comes up. And there are weeds just as big, yet their roots go deep and wide, and they are hard to pull out. How has Easter changed my life? The roots of the resurrection go deep and wide into every bit of my life. For around 28 years now, I have suffered with depression and anxiety and struggled with it, sometimes every day, and sometimes I go years without. But when I draw on Jesus on the dark days, for everyday strength, for the strength to get through that day and that challenge, I draw on the power of the resurrection. The resurrection going deep into every bit of my life. Not a Damascus Road like Paul, but everyday healing and miracles like the other disciples. In the face of untold grief at this time, we draw on the power of the resurrection. In the face of uncertainty for our future, for jobs, for our country, we draw on the power of the resurrection. In the face of our personal isolation, we draw on the power of the resurrection. We know that whatever the future holds, in these very uncertain times, the power of the resurrection is stronger. For death could not hold Jesus. The tomb was empty. And nor can our current situation hold us. For the tomb is empty. I pray that this Easter particularly, the power of the resurrection may send roots deep and wide into your lives Amen.